Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Driftwood Conversations. I'm Hillary Sloan. Today's episode features a conversation with Kate Cline, an artist who goes by the name RSI. Kate is a sound artist and producer, deeply committed to exploring the ways sound influences our inner world, whether through meditation, music, or experimental performance. Her work invites us to listen, not just with our ears, but with our whole being. Hello, Kate. I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Hillary. My artist name is RSI. I am a sound artist. I love making sound and have been practicing that for the last 12 years and am endlessly enthralled by it. I am also a producer and I am also a sound meditation specialist. So all things relative to sound. And I'm so happy to be here to talk to you today. Thank you.
What is a sound specialist?
A sound meditation specialist would be somebody who uses sound to facilitate meditations. When I say sound meditation specialist, my journey has been primarily through sound as a producer and somebody who's really fascinated by the capacity that sound has on a physics-based level to alter our brainwave states and bring us into a more holistic state of being. There's a lot of misrepresentations, I think, of sound meditation often that are all very well intended and beautiful, absolutely beautiful, so nothing wrong with that. But I call myself a sound meditation specialist because I'm a lot more focused on the practical applications of sound and the actual functions of sound as a physics-based medium.
I'm going to have to dig down into that because I don't understand. And what is the difference between sound meditation specialist and sound artist? Because I think you use that term too.
So one kind of refers to my own practice. Like when I am creating sound art, it's less in the context of being of service to a group of people, although I still see aspects of that or hope to provide some of that. But it's really more letting my creativity run absolutely wild and free through my medium of choice, which is sound. And that often links sound to physical touch or to other senses. It's something I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy wiring things, which is a part of my creativity. And that transfers into some other mediums I have experience with, but I don't necessarily specialize in now. The sound meditation specialist is somebody who has an understanding of sound and the physics part of sound, and uses that in a way to facilitate meditations for other people and for groups of people. And that is how I apply that knowledge in a group setting.
That makes sense, but let's break it down even deeper.
Okay.
What do you use in your craft? What tools?
I use a modular synthesizer. It's called a Eurorack. It's basically a very customizable instrument. It was really popular in the 60s. That's kind of when it was invented. I mean, some modules are digital, but it's a generally analog machine, and it's like a synth. And it's a very powerful machine. It has a vast frequency range, but you can customize your modules so no modular synthesizer may be the same. It's highly customizable. It also requires an understanding of how sound functions because nothing is wired. You are wiring everything, and you're building what they call patches. It's one of the reasons I find it very useful for sound meditation in particular because you have to understand the functions and parameters, and you can very rarely, in fact, you can really never get back to the same sound twice. For me, it makes me feel like I'm collaborating with something outside of myself. Because when I get to the place where I've built a patch that feels right, then I'm manipulating it in real time or I'm changing it in real time. And it's this very hypnotic process. And I believe that's why in the sound baths, as they're often called, but sound meditations that I facilitate, it can put you in a trance or into that theta brainwave state, which is what I personally aim for. That's what I hope for people. And I think that partially happens because it's extremely meditative and extremely hypnotic for me to be in that place. I can't intellectualize it. I can intellectually understand how sound functions. And then once I'm built a patch that just feels right, then I'm basically going into my own self-hypnotic state.
I know that you have done gallery shows. Was that with the sound?
Yes. So every gallery show I have done so far has involved sound in different ways. The last show that I did was interactive. So and actually in this I did a sonic performance, like a sound meditation in the gallery space to close the show. But I collaborated with another artist, Mitra Fabian. She made her sculptures move in a way that they created sound. And so I amplified that sound and created a sound palette and a sonic design to like reverberate into this space in a different and kind of unexpected way that people could interact with. When it comes to, and that's a really good question that kind of segues into the difference between sound meditation and sound art for me, because sound art aspect of what I do, that's a part of it that I enjoy a lot. I really enjoy making sound tactile. Like my instrument is very tactile. The modular synthesizer is a very tactile instrument. You are wiring physical things and twisting knobs. I apply that sensory cross into the sound art that I do. The second, which actually we were a part of this group show in Joshua Tree, that piece was not interactive in the sense that people touched things and they were sound reverberated, but they walked into a space where the light sculpture was connected to the sound and actually triggered by the sound. That's what was making it go on and off. And then the first show in Berlin I had two pieces in that show, but one of them was a piece that people actually punched. And so they'd have to put boxing gloves on. And they would punch this really big sculpture. The sculpture would reverberate. I think when you touch something and it has an impact and it reverberates into a space, I feel like that's an important element of life that we forget, that everything that we touch reverberates and it has this impact and this echo, and we touch other people through the decisions that we make. And, it's sometimes easy to lose sight of that. And I feel like in an art space, bringing people in and involving them in the experience and making things sonic, it's like this ripple.
So I'm going to go back and clarify a little bit. When you were saying we did a piece, we did. It was another artist out here in Joshua Tree who opened his home for us to create art. And I did a more visual piece, and yours was both visual and sonic, and it was within a room. What I noticed in both of our pieces, mine was chairs and writing, and you had to walk through it, and I noticed people's reactions weren't exactly what I expected. Mm. And I think you might have gotten that also. Mm. And I don't mean in a good or bad way. It was just, it invoked things from people that we didn't know would happen.
100%. And I feel like that's the natural part of making art, that it might mean something so specific and so peculiar to you, and the way that people experience it can be so different and so subjective to their own experience. And it's a really good reminder when you're putting things out into the world. I have to remember this, to really let go of the outcome and let them exist, because that's almost feels like the necessary second part of their life, where it's out of your hands, out of your lab, out of your studio, and then it's like meant to interact with the world and in a way where, you really have no control over the narrative. But I really enjoyed that show. That was a really fun experience. It was very unique. There was like an indoor element of your space that was actually placed outside.
So my piece was 3 or 4 chairs that I had covered with nature, with moss and painted, and then added journals. And people went up and read pieces of these old journals that no longer meant anything. They were disturbed in a lot of ways. They were manipulated by paint, and the moss and things were pasted on them. And your piece, I'm going to let you explain.
My piece was placed within a room. It was, I would call it a sonic immersion, maybe, or sonic installation. The origin of the piece was a sound meditation, and it was a light sculpture I had made. It was a neon bender. I had created this argon 3D sculpture that was on a bed of coal slag in the center of this room, which was all black. And there was space around, like the focal point in the center of the room was occupied by the sculpture. And then you could walk around it. And then there was, again, a sonic piece that was connected to the light sculpture. So the sound in the sonic piece would trigger the light sculpture to go on and off. And there was a little closet. And I had placed some of my clothes and a light in there. And at the end of the sound piece, there was this recording of some conversation amongst friends. And the concept of it was really this like vast inner world that can exist, particularly within women, I feel, in this like seed of creation amongst this, it's all black and kind of dark, but this fertile soil, I'd say. And I think it reflected maybe personally where I was at that moment, to feeling like I was rebuilding.
Where does your art come from?
When I was younger, and I found this piece recently, and I had written it as a first grader, and it talks about how I experience sound and how I experience music. And I experience music all around me in this very immersive way. I remember being a young girl and writing songs in my room, but this was never a thing I thought was like a career path. So I never visited it until I was 22, and I had been working in fashion very luckily since the time I was 17. And I had this big opportunity that would have changed the trajectory of my life. And in that, when I was exploring other options that were more meaningful and perhaps more authentic to me, I thought I wanted to DJ. It was very popular at that time. I created this copyright system to get this check from my job, and it kind of gave me enough income to start these warehouse parties because I truthfully wanted to DJ, and I had gotten this group of friends together, and we got sponsors, and we rented the space, and we actually threw a warehouse party. And I had no idea how to DJ, but I thought I'd be able to with zero experience. And it was kind of a bone-crushing failure in my mind, oddly, but we made maybe like $300 from this event. And it was after that experience where I, of course, realized, well, A, you can't do anything with zero experience. And I went to a DJ school. And at that DJ school, I enjoyed DJing. It was fun and I learned how. But it was actually in the music production course that I completely fell in love. And that was at 21. And I treated creating loops or sound as a journal. And it was something that was just for me. I never, again, saw it as a career path. It was something I did just for me in the privacy of my own home for years and years. And it really helped me understand myself in this way and kind of unpack some of what I was dealing with at that time. I just wasn't sure how I could make a career out of making sound. But around 24, 25, I got the itch to go to Berlin, and it was there that I really pursued it more seriously as and ended up getting a degree in production and performance and did my first show over there and really just pursued it a lot more authentically and like wholeheartedly.
Okay, so this is still relatively all new for you. You're exploring, you're learning, you're taking different courses.
I always wanted to make an immersive album. That was my goal. And while I was going to music school, I worked for an artist who was a neon artist, and she was very successful. It was after I moved back to America. Sound was always the primary thing, but again, I was almost like a closeted sound person. Like I wasn't sharing that with people. It was very private to me. I wanted a neon piece for my apartment. I was so used to being around neon all the time at the studio in Berlin. And when I ordered neon from this local shop in Los Angeles, the owner, he asked me when I came in to pick it up, he gave it to me for free, and he asked me if I'd like to learn how to bend neon. And so I was like, yeah, why not? I'll take you up on it. And so around the time that we met, I had been learning how to bend, and I was making these 3D sculptures. And I actually remember coming out here, and I did not have enough gas money to get home. This was a very humbling time. And I brought 4 of my sculptures in the trunk of my car, and I went to these different flea markets and asked if I could just do a little pop-up and sell them. And the first sale that I made of one of those sculptures, it was like very inexpensive, but it was actually to a gallery owner who I did my second art show with. And that was in Santa Cruz, so at Minnow Arts. That evolved into doing commission work, and it still was incorporated into my art. And of course, I found a way to make it sonic. I was like, okay, I can see that can work. But I could not yet apply that to my own true, authentic passion being sound. So that's kind of how that played out.
For the last at least 10 years, close to, you have been working through different mediums to discover or to find a way, discover a way to be yourself. Am I right in that?
Sound has been the most consistent and longest held, and actually I think genuinely the greatest tool of transformation for me and becoming. I actually believe that the practice of sound generation has brought me closer to my authentic self. And the other mediums that I've engaged with, it's all part of the soup. In fact, working with neon, it's kind of ironic because it's another very ethereal medium. It also involves wiring things and creating a circuit and using electricity to complete a circuit, which is the machine that I use for sound generation that I love so much. It's a similar format. So there's a connection there.
What's happening with you now? I mean, you're doing sound meditation and more sound art. And how is it going? How's it working?
It's going well. I recently had a very much needed trip back to Berlin, which is where I found connected most deeply with my community in my authenticity, let's say, because I really was there to pursue music and pursue that truth wholeheartedly. And everyone I've connected with there, they've become kind of like my friendship family, your chosen family. And I really needed to go back there because in Los Angeles, there's a lot of commercial pressure. I'm not sure I believe that great art comes from that place. At least I'll say that was one of the lessons that came from returning there. My aesthetics and my sensibility is deeply rooted in the culture, the creative culture of Berlin. The entire time I was there, I was live streaming interviews with different friends who are in all different careers, many of them in sound, in the realm of music or sound and art and immersive art. And we made a sound art piece or started a sound art piece on these live streams that will be finalized in this second round of interviews, live stream interviews and performances that's happening in May. And I am planning a tour throughout the different places I'll be visiting in May to share the full articulation of what a sound meditation with my kind of style, I guess, would be. I'm also doing an event at the Grotto in Los Angeles in February, which I'm excited about to present in this way. Right now, I'm really prioritizing really sharing the point of view around sound meditation that is often kind of misrepresented.
The sound meditation, does it involve any discipline, any therapy, anything that works for or with people and their emotional state?
Yes. We don't really need science to tell us that music affects our emotional states. That is now being measured in some capacity and has been for some time now. And really the only way we can measure that is through stress biomarkers in the medical field. And that's very useful and very practical and great. But of course, music affects our emotional states. I am not a scientist, and I am someone who has a deep personal relationship to sound, where I believe that the practice of making sound has healed me in many ways. So I'll just share my personal perspective and like specialties, because it's a huge field and there's so many different schools of thoughts, and I'll just share mine. And my goal and what I'm excited to share this upcoming year is the blend of aesthetics, first of all, and the blend of like knowledge, like functional application. My goal is to use that aspect of sound really in alignment with the hero's journey through an hour-long experience. I'm fascinated by the hero's journey. It's this universal arc that we all almost experience our own transformation through. So that is really what I base my sound meditation around. And I really view my sound meditation experiences as I'm scoring a film for your subconscious mind to fill in the blanks. You put a different soundtrack on a film and it totally changes the way that movie feels. I'm really interested in people, like I mentioned this, and it's maybe a common thread in the sound art thing, where it's people being interactive with the experience and being a part of the art. The sound influences and kind of creates the space and the emotional pinpoints that your own experience is going to fill in the blanks with. I've never had an experience where I haven't received some type of very useful insight when it comes to when I'm having visions, because that will happen for me when I experience a sound bath. I'll get like visions and these little journeys that kind of happen. And it's always been benevolent, and it's always been very almost like well-timed. The subconscious mind is like this vast element of being a human being, and because we're kind of realizing like what you believe affects the experience that you're going to have. I mean, I still am working on this. It's like a practice. It's not an end result. I've had to do a lot of work and come a long way in that regard.
Be more specific. You're using your own meditation and sound work to help you also.
Of course.
Be more specific on how it's helping you. Are you ADHD? Is that how this has come up? And what does that look like? Because people are going to have a lot of questions. I do.
Yeah. I'm happy to answer any questions. So sound has helped me access my subconscious mind, point blank, period. I used it every day as a journal entry. There are a couple experiences I could share that kind of emphasize the realizations that I had in this regard that are just anecdotal, personal ones. You know, I'd experienced a lot from the ages of like 6 to, I would say, 15. Were really densely populated, hard time of my life. I had zero skills with processing emotion, and I was very, very high functioning. I mean, I had a career from 17 to 22. At 22, like, I was to fly to Europe and China as like a design director of a textile company. That's what they were grooming me for at 22, which was insane because on the inside I was miserable and I had horrible coping skills, and I truly felt like a dumpster fire on the inside. It kind of blows my mind to this day. And when I found sound, I was just using it as a practice for myself personally every day. Like I mentioned, it became my journal entry. One of the experiences that I had, I hadn't processed any of what had happened from those honestly traumatic years. I had this one moment. I got into a car accident. Someone tapped the back of my car. It kind of flung me forward. I didn't have any severe injuries or anything, but I went home and I was depressed for days. And I was really confused by it. I was like, I could not get out of bed. And I was emotionally exhausted. And when I did my loop for the day, because that was my practice, that was my commitment to myself, I had recreated a loop that was of a hospital room where I had experienced this deeply traumatic moment. It wasn't involving me, it was with a loved one. It was almost like a subconscious biofeedback. I understood that I was processing that traumatic moment through being rocked physically from a car accident. I didn't realize this in that moment, but in hindsight, through other experiences and my own experiences receiving sound baths and sound meditations, emotions are very physical. If I'm really conscious, I can feel my different emotions in different parts of my body. Sound helped me realize what was going on there.
That makes sense. Okay, now I'm putting the pieces together. What about your family? Do they support you? Are they involved in music?
Well, I don't want to say they don't support me at all, but not at all involved in music. My family is, I would say, very different than me. I'm like the creative, and I think this is quite common. It's not necessarily unique to be the black sheep, but that would definitely be me, I would say. My mom was creative, though. My mom was a deeply, very, very creative woman, and that just poured out of her into everything that she did. And she did pursue art at different times throughout her life. My dad is very kind of hyper-focused, very intelligent. He's very successful at what he does, but he does not understand the art mindset whatsoever.
So you've been on this journey for a long time, maybe even from childhood. And it's been a self-discovery, a self-healing. And you did mention some things that are coming up. You said you're going on a road tour with this project that you're doing.
It's actually, it'll be a tour in Europe. Through the different locations I'll be interviewing, friends in different places. I'll be organizing a tour in Berlin, doing a couple different performances at different venues there. It's in May. So a little bit warmer of a month over there. And so the plan is to also create some accessible events in nature spots as well, where we can use the solar generators and create something that people can experience outdoors.
What about this live stream that you're doing? Tell me more about it, and where will it show? And
gladly. I have conversations with friends and people that I've connected with along the journey, and we do an interview really based around noise making. And this is across different industries. It's not just within the music industry or sound art or anything like that. It's, a way that you ripple out into the world. How do you make noise? And that can be in your studio making metal sculptures, or that can be an interview that I did out in Berlin was with a friend who does marketing at Universal, and she makes noise by promoting the artists that she works with, and also she sings herself. And so what I love about the interview part is getting to know people and hear the nuances of their practice in making noise and how that means something different to every person I interact with. And then the concept is to do a live, and what we have been doing is a live sound art piece. And that changes between whoever it is. In this case, you make noise through your podcast. So we're doing a podcast together. It's been a really beautiful way to collaborate with people I respect and love, and that extends among, beyond just people that I'm close friends with, but it's also been a really great way to just fall in love with the act of creation for no other reason than I just want to make something and capture this moment in a way that with my tools and the tools available to the other person. It's very rewarding. I love it. So it's available, or you can stream through my YouTube channel, which is RSIARRESSAI. That's a backslash, and that's also all my tags and all my social media. That's what my name is in this realm. And I live stream on YouTube, and we are figuring out how to live stream across a couple of other platforms simultaneously. At this point, we're doing these live streams, and we're getting the content to promote one that will be done again. So we're doing 2.
For me, I get so engrossed in listening to somebody and working with the information that I'm hearing, and how we can go deeper and deeper in understanding other people and connecting other people, connecting all of us, because there's something healing about it, and there's something about now, this time. Sometimes, even though my art form right now is speaking, I lose my words and my thoughts, and it's funny how that happens, but I think I am so deeply engrossed and engaged in our conversation, or whatever it is I'm thinking about, and making sense of it, that the individual words coming back to the moment is really tough. But that's part of it too, isn't it?
I relate. I relate. I was just talking to my boyfriend about this because I get so present and enwrapped in the moment. I need sometimes the structure. That's where it manifests for me. Like I have to have some structure to bring me back down, because there are moments where I think it's a beautiful thing. It's like you're so present that you kind of like, where are we at? You know?
Absolutely. Okay. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover about what you're doing and how you create, what you're looking forward to in the future, this point in time?
Actually, no. I think we've covered.
Okay, so I have a question that I've been asking people. Now you're younger, so some of the people I've been interviewing are older, closer to my age, so it might be different. But if you were to meet yourself, would you hang out with yourself?
I love that question. That's a great question. I think so. I really had this experience quite recently where I was really awakened to, and I didn't always feel this way. But I like my energy, and I'm okay with hanging out with myself. In fact, I might need to make more time to spend some quality time with myself, because I think it's important to be in tune with who you are and what you have to offer, and like acknowledging that as actually something precious, which was not always the case for me. But that is how I feel today. So yes, I would hang out with myself.
It's interesting. That question evolved from one of the interviews, and I just loved it. And so it's interesting how people view that, and I would too. And not because I'm perfect or anything, but I'm interesting. It's like, wow, what are you doing? How did you get here? Where did this come from? What were you like a year ago or 10 years ago? And nothing like I am now. It's an evolving experience. Do you feel like that too?
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because of course, yes, you are interesting. And, you know.
It's just life.
Amen.
Kate, thank you.
Thank you.
I still call you Kate.
You can call me Kate.
Good. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. If this conversation stirred something in you or left you with questions, please reach out or leave a comment. You can find out more about Kate's work in my Substack introduction of this episode.